As Pope Francis dies at age 88. Jos residents stage protest over Plateau State killings. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu returns to Nigeria from Paris trip. It's glad to have you join us on the news on TV360 Nigeria. I'm Tamilore Akinkwole. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has joined global leaders in mourning the death of Pope Francis, who passed away at the age of 88 on Monday morning, just a day after making a surprise Easter appearance at St. Peter's Square. In a heartfelt tribute, President Tinubu described the late pontiff as a humble servant of God, a tireless champion of the poor, and a guiding light for millions. The president urged Nigerians and the global community to honor the Pope's memory, not just with words, but through acts of justice, unity, and mercy. The death of the Argentine-born Pope, who led the Catholic Church since 2013, has drawn condolences from world leaders across faiths. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, Russian President Vladimir Putin, Israeli President, Iranian officers, and Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky also paid tribute to his legacy of peace-building, interfaith dialogues, and advocacy for the vulnerable. Pope Francis had been hospitalized for over a month with double pneumonia, but made a public appearance on Easter Sunday before his passing the following morning. And in Nigeria, amid renewed violence and growing casualties, Christians in Plateau State staged a peaceful protest on Monday to decry the unrelenting attacks that has ravaged communities in the region. Organized by the Church Denominational Leaders Forum and the Christian Association of Nigeria in Plateau State, the march served both as a call for peace and a solemn tribute to the many lives lost. Men, women, youth, and the elderly took to the streets holding placards and banners, visibly grieving and demanding justice. Organizers said the peace walk was prompted by the persistent and bloody attacks blamed largely on bandits, with over 100 people killed, and the latest wave of violence in April alone. The recent violence has reignited memories of the 2023 Christmas Eve massacre in Bokos, which claimed around 150 lives, deepening fears that security crisis in Plateau and neighboring Benue State continues to spiral. And it's been 18 days since armed men yet to be identified launched a deadly attack on several communities in Bokos, Plateau State, leaving many residents dead and property destroyed. Now, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development visited the area to commiserate with victims and assess the situation. He stopped at the Church of Christ in Nation and Thomas Catholic Church in Bokos, assuring residents that the Nigerian government is providing temporary relief, including over 400 bags of rice, roofing sheets, and building materials. He added that additional support will be provided in collaboration with the state and local governments, stressing the need for a coordinated response.
Number one is food, which I provided temporary food. I brought 450 bags of rice, and some other. I brought roofing materials. I brought building materials for them too. We need to add more from what they're asking me to do. We need to add more, which I'll reinforce and ensure that we add more. But I think we'll talk also with the state government and local government also, because when it comes to humanitarian activities, it goes beyond federal government. The immediate government is the local government and the state government. Work together with them to ensure that we give dignity. Like I rightly mentioned to them that any Plateau son now that is playing politics with the life of these people is unjust to these people. These are innocent people. They're just living in peaceful communities, serene community. As you can see, it very, very serene, and a quiet community who are just local farmers in the community, and being murdered, being killed, their property being destroyed, their livelihood being destroyed is just not just unjust, but inhuman. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, we work with every son of Plateau.
Villages that have been vacated because most of them have been burned down and the people killed. And most of the people here in this village are either in Bokos or inside Hurti.
Now, joining me to discuss the recent resurgence of insecurity in the northern part of Nigeria is security expert Jaye Gaskia. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, what do you make of the resurgence of violence in the northern part of the country after a period of relative calm? And what could you say is fueling this fresh wave of attacks?
Thank you very much for having me. I think that there are a combination of reasons and factors why we witness a resurgence. And I know that people sometimes don't like to also, mention some of the facts that are obvious. But if we look at the history of violence in our communities and in our country, we see this cycle of resurgence, and it may, just like the minister alluded to in that in his when in that interview, we cannot also completely rule out the fact that politics may also be playing quite a big role in the current dispensation, because usually when we are mid-term and beginning the second half of a regime, and people are beginning to prepare and mobilize again for elections in less than a year or a year and a half. We begin to see some of these mobilization of grievances, and when that is done, then people, conflict entrepreneurs, people who are simply just would derive some benefits from violence and conflict, are also watching the situation, and they also seem to want to take advantage of the situation. So sometimes people like these who organize this kind of criminal attacks and activities also look to see a period when they think that there is quite a number of fault lines in the context in terms of the relationship between politicians and so on and so forth, and so therefore also relative vulnerability of communities, and then they strike. They seize that opportunity to strike. So we cannot completely rule out the fact that that may be a factor. That said, I think that the biggest challenge really with and why insecurity seems to we seem to be having this resurgence of insecurity in more or less like in a cyclical manner, more or less even predictive cyclical manner, is really because of also what I would call the complete emasculation of the third tier of government and the complete absence of governance at the local government level. The minister again mentioned the fact of talking to local governments and the rest of that, but I mean simply, there are really no local governments, and so who are you really talking to? So until you do have a government at that level that can respond to issues, not just the issues of development, but also the issues of security, then it will be very difficult to actually contain this.
All right, sorry to cut you short, but now let's talk about the people. We see that the people in just staged a protest. Now, from a security standpoint, how effective do you think peaceful protests like this would draw the attention of the government, and they would actually make actions to protect these people?
Yeah, I mean, basically, people are protesting because really now you have to really take your own, you have to take your destiny into your own hands, because it seems as if people have been abandoned. They seem to be not to be protected. So the best way, the best way for people actually to act now, other than to take the laws into their hands, is this kind of peaceful protest to call the attention, to draw the attention of government and relevant government authorities to this institution. But this people have taken their own initiative. I would also expect what is lacking really now is actually the initiative on the part of leadership and on the part of the elite, and so it's difficult. I would expect that given the context of Plateau State, given the context of Benue State. In the North Central, generally, where conflicts that are arising from this kind of unscrupulous attacks on innocent people can easily take on ethnic and religious divisions. One would expect that this is the time that the leadership and the elite across religious lines, across ethnic lines, would actually be mobilizing. I would have loved to see a situation where, rather than just seeing for example, Christian leaders mobilizing. I would have loved to see a situation where it's an interfaith thing, and you are seeing both Christian and Muslim leaders out there jointly leading, so that they are sending a message to citizens that this is not one faith against the other faith, but these are just criminal elements against the whole of society.
All right, security expert Jai Gaskia, thank you so much for lending in your thoughts, as always. Now, moving on, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is set to return to Nigeria on Monday, which is today, after nearly 2 weeks abroad, according to the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga. Bayo Ononuga, who is the Special Advisor on Information, announced Tinubu's imminent return in an ex-post on Monday. The president had traveled to Paris on April the 2nd for what was described as a 2-week working visit, later moving to London during the Easter weekend. While away, the presidency assured Nigerians that President Bola Tinubu remained actively engaged in national governance. And residents of Kip and Tushura communities in the Federal Capital Territory were all smiles as ongoing road construction projects in their areas neared completion. According to the site engineer, about 50% of the binder work has been completed, with full asphalt layering expected to be done by next week. The target date for completion is May the 14th, 2025. Now, FCT Minister Yeson Wike, who also visited the site, emphasized the economic potential the roads would unlock, noting that better road access could reduce rural-urban migration and lower housing costs as more people settle in satellite towns. On concerns about neglected roads and federal housing estates, the minister clarified that such estates are private developments and not the federal government's responsibility.
Like you know, we've been to Katy. Now, this leads to Takoshara. Like the emphasis Mr. President has always made, we should not only concentrate in the cities. We should take development to the satellite town. You can see how happy the residents were in Katy in particular, and heavily populated area. And you also understand, if you go to Takoshara, how happy they will be. I want to commend the chairman of AMAC, who drew our attention to these two very important roads. But for him, probably we would not have, taken our attention to this place. I'm happy with what the contractors are doing. Hopefully, by the end of May, these two roads will be inaugurated as part of the second year anniversary of this president. So we're very happy with what we're seeing.
In a colorful celebration blending tradition and compassion, the China-Africa Mazu Culture Association hosted the 1065th anniversary of the Mazu, the Reverend Chinese Sea Goddess, alongside the launch of the Together Fight Against Hunger charity program at TDH Resorts in Lekki, Lagos. The event, attended by over 200 Chinese devotees and local dignitaries, showcased rich cultural displays with incense rituals and drum beats. Chinese Consul General in Lagos, Yan Yinchin, emphasized the importance of cultural exchange and unity, calling Mazu a symbol of virtue and great love. As part of the newly launched charity initiative, 25 children from low-income households received 100,000 naira scholarships and food supplies, reinforcing the celebration's social impact.
Culture knows no boundaries. So today I'm so glad to participate the celebration of 1065th anniversary of Mazu's birthday, also Olugung's birthday. Yeah, so Mazu symbolizes the godness of sea, and also the symbol of kindness, love for the people. All Chinese people love Mazu, and now Mazu culture is most important part of Chinese traditional culture. And also, I'm so glad that today in Nigeria, especially in my district, and we have China Nigeria Friendship Mazu Cultural Association. So I think that here they can spread our Chinese culture, and also enhance our mutual understanding and friendship between China and the Nigeria people.
Mazu Boyo Cultural Association is more like, is similar. It has similarity with our own Olokun festival. You can see the sighting of the temple is in front of the ocean, and most of the time, like in my own community in Egmi, our forefathers cited this same, cultural heritage that we call Olokun in front of our own lagoon, because Mazuboyo is a goddess of water. Olokun also is a goddess of water. And Olokun is worshipped all over Nigeria, all over Yoruba land, and by extension to some other African countries. And you can see it now that it's being worshipped all over the world.
News now will now go on a short break, but still to come, world finance leaders meet in Washington amid global trade war and negotiations. We'll bring you details of the story right after this break. Welcome back. Now let's give you a quick recap of our top stories. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu joined global leaders in mourning the death of Pope Francis, who died at age 88 after a long illness. Pope Francis, who led the Catholic Church since 2013, passed away a day after making an Easter appearance. Condolences poured in from leaders including J.D. Vance, Russia's Putin, and others across religious divides. The Pope was widely respected for promoting peace, interfaith dialogue, and advocating for the vulnerable. Restitute Judeo-Christians in Plateau State staged a peaceful protest to condemn ongoing deadly attacks on their communities. Organized by CAN and church leaders, the protest mourned over 100 people killed in April and demanded justice and security. The violence recalls the 2023 Christmas Eve massacre, fueling fears of worsening crisis in Plateau and Benue states. Now, in case you missed any of our news bulletin or for more updates, you can catch us on Limas World TV and AVO TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria, or download our mobile app on Google Play Store, Huawei App Gallery, and Apple Store. On Facebook, we're at TV360 Online. Welcome back. It's time for business news, and Okwayemi Owosheni is on standby. Over to you, Okwayemi.
Thank you, Tamilore, and welcome to Business News. The Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Segun Ajayi-Kadiri, has expressed concern over the global tariff war initiated by U.S. President Donald Trump, warning it could have negative implications for Nigeria's manufacturing sector and the broader economy. Ajayi-Kadiri noted that while tariffs are traditionally used to boost domestic industries, Trump's aggressive push to prioritize American manufacturing risk, disrupting international trade, including Nigeria's growing non-oil export to the United States. Now, with bilateral trade between Nigeria and the U.S. reaching 9.59 trillion naira in 2024, accounting for nearly 7% of Nigeria's total trade, the DG emphasized that the tariff hike comes at a particularly vulnerable time. Now, also speaking on the trade war, speaking to TV360 Nigeria about the implications of the tariffs on the African Growth and Opportunity Act, the CEO for the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, Muda Yusuf, noted that Nigeria has not fully capitalized on the trade benefit provided under the Act, especially when compared to other African nations.
When you compare our exports to that of Mauritius, to that of Lesotho, to that of South Africa, what we have been able to export under the Act is very negligible, you know. So with respect to the Act, in any case, the Act is meant to lapse this year, September this year. The African Growth and Opportunities Act is meant to lapse. But given the disposition of President Trump, this we can regard the AGOA as, you know, being terminated or being discontinued essentially. Because Trump is very, you know, bullish, is very firm, is very serious about issues of trade balance. And I'm not sure he's ready to listen to any particular advantage that has been given to any part of the world. So for all practical purposes, we can regard the AGOA as dead. So I think what needs to happen now for many countries, including Nigeria, is to begin to seek diversification of their export portfolio geographically. You know, and the good thing for us is that most of our non-oil exports, even oil exports, are to Europe. Europe is actually a major trading partner, although we import a lot more from China. Then we also have some measure of trade within the continent and all of that. But no matter how we look at it, this development is a wake-up call.
Well, that's it on Business News. There will be no stock market update today as the stock market is closed because of the Easter holidays. Back to you, Tammy, for the rest of the news.
Thank you, Okwayemi. Well, on the global scene, Paris will be paying a solemn tribute to the late Pope Francis on Monday night as the iconic Eiffel Tower will be going dark in his honor following news of his passing at the age of 88. Mayor Anne Hidalgo announced the symbolic gesture, praising the Pope for placing ecology at the heart of spiritual concerns and championing the cause of refugees during his papacy. Also, in a deeply moving tribute, the bell of the historic Notre Dame Cathedral rang 88 times, one for each year of the Pope's life, echoing across the city. The city of Paris is also set to dedicate a permanent location in memory of Pope Francis, celebrating a legacy that resonated far beyond the Vatican. And finance leaders from across the globe have converged in Washington this week for the spring meeting of the International Monetary Fund and World Bank Group, with the spotlight firmly on the escalating trade tensions sparked by U.S. tariffs. The meeting, traditionally a platform for discussion on debt relief, foreign investment and development financing, have been overtaken by concerns over President Donald Trump's sweeping new tariffs. The dramatic trade shift has already begun to ripple through the global economy, promoting urgent negotiation on the sidelines of the meeting. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva has also warned of notable markdowns in economic forecasts due to the growing uncertainty and market volatility. And on entertainment, the famous Lagos Fanti Carnival, one of the city's most iconic traditions, has made a return after a hiatus. Supported by the Lagos State Ministry of Tourism, Art and Culture, in collaboration with Robert Taylor's Media and Brazilian Descendant Association, the highly anticipated cultural celebration took place on Easter Sunday at the Remembrance Arcade at Tafawa Balewa Square. First held in the late 19th century by Afro-Brazilian returnees of Yoruba descent, the Lagos Fanti Carnival celebration aims to honor the legacy of the Afro-Brazilian community in Lagos State. Now, TV360 Simisola Adigun has more details in this next report.
The streets of Lagos Island came alive on Easter Sunday as the historic Lagos Fanti Carnival, which captures the identity, resilience, and creative spirit of the city, returned to its landscape. Blending Afro-Brazilian heritage with modern Lagos culture, the celebration featured colorful parades and choreography by carnival groups, as well as a rich display of fashion, food, and music, showcasing the energy and diversity of Lagos.
With the involvement of technology and the likes, I think I like this stage. I like the fact that the carnival attires and outfits, they are doing better in it. It's beneficial to everyone because now I learned that there are some dressing in Lagos that I don't know. I learned about it today. There are some ways that they do culture. Lagos too has culture. It's not like Lagos does not, people say Lagos does not have culture. Lagos too has culture. So I can just say we should bring back the culture to life. Let everyone be aware of it that Lagos has culture.
Okay, Fancy Festival Carnival is a very fantabulous carnival. It is different from the other carnivals of festival. So this one is 100.
It's okay.
Beautiful.
Well, we're enjoying it, but we can, they can do more better.
With roots stretching back to 1890, this dynamic celebration remains a symbol of history and community spirit.
We are very thankful that the Lagos State government, through the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, have decided to harness all this strength together, bringing all of them together and affording now generation and future generation to see what the whole concept it entails, and not to forget that it also helped to improve the economy of Lagos.
For quite some time, it's been a while I've been at the Fanti Carnival, and for the first time in a long time, I can say this is quite something different from the usual stuff. You know, I grew up around the island, and I've been attending the Fanti Carnival since I was a kid. So for the first time, like I said, in a long time, this is something new, and the setup is quite different and it's quite magnificent.
As the Lagos Fanti Carnival returns to the city with renewed energy, the Lagos State government highlights the importance of deepening cultural awareness and safeguarding ancestral legacies. Simisola Adigun, TV360 News.
And finally, on sport, all 4 Syria marches scheduled for Easter Monday have been postponed following the death of Pope Francis at the age of 88. The affected features were initially set to take place on the Italian national holiday, but will now be played on Wednesday, April the 23rd. Pope Francis, a lifelong football fan and devoted supporter of Argentine club San Lorenzo, was widely respected in the sporting world. And those are the stories we have on our news bulletin today. Thank you for watching. See you again next time.